Hello there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today for another video. Recently I shared a multicolored foiling project and it was a really popular project. A lot of you really enjoyed it and wanted to see more with this technique, so I thought I would bring it back and use it to create some slimline cards with some of the new products from Simon Says Stamps Born to Sparkle release. Now if you missed that video, I will link to it in the top right corner if you want to check it out. I used a beautiful floral wreath stencil to create a beautiful multicolored foiling effect. These cards are going to be created in a similar fashion. However, we're going to change up how the foil is applied and we're going to create more of a fractal pattern rather than trying to color each individual element of this particular stencil design. So in today's project, I'm using the brand new XL Bouquet stencil from Simon Says Stamp. This is a beautiful, super large stencil. It's 4x9, fills up an entire slimline card perfectly. I'm going to tape some white cardstock onto this stencil so it doesn't shift as I apply the paste on top of it. Now you'll notice on the right hand side of my screen, I have the new Simon Says Stamp Positively Everything tool. This is a silicone paw tool that is perfect for a variety of uses, including opening up jars. Sometimes our paste jars can have a little bit of paste stuck on the outside rim and things get a little stuck and harder to open. This tool is super helpful because just like any other jar opener, this is a really nice tool to be able to grip onto your jar as you open it up to use it. I'm carefully applying the paste through the stencil using a palette knife. I'm going to then switch over to using a stencil pal to smooth this paste out even more, so it's going to have a really nice thin application which will help it dry faster, and it's going to make sure I cover every area because this is larger than the piece that I'm working with. After I have applied all the paste, I'll remove the stencil and we're going to set this aside to dry. I wanted to make multiple of this card, so I am going to do this again. This time I'm going to tape the stencil down in a different direction and we're going to reapply the paste. Now, I made a mistake somewhere along the way here when I was working on applying this paste. I got, I think, some air in some of the different spots of this stencil. So this is going to result in a little bit of a more textured stenciling. You're going to see this later on when I go to foil this. We're going to have some areas that don't foil quite as well because I have some spots that didn't totally stencil completely. But I'm going to make it work and the pattern will just look a little bit more distressed, which I think is a really cool look unto itself. So we're going to smooth out this paste as well, and then we'll set this one aside to dry. These take about, I'd say, a few hours to dry. I usually like to leave them overnight and finish them up the next day just because I like to make sure they're good and dry. But this paste is applied pretty thin, so it didn't really take that long. I have my dried paste here on my paper, and I have a selection of foils picked out to use for my fractal pattern. So I'm also going to need a carrier to run this through my laminator, and that is going to be created with some parchment paper and a few cardstock shims. I'm using some slimline cardstock shims here to go ahead and stick these inside of my parchment paper, so that way it will have some really good pressure on my cardstock and foil when this is run through my machine. I'm applying the foil down onto my project very haphazardly. We want this to have a really cool fractal triangular looking design. So we're going to overlap the foil so that way some areas will be covered in one color and then other areas will be colored in another color of foil. I'm using tape to hold them down. It's a removable tape and I'm taping it onto the back side of the foil where it's not going to be touching any of the transfer gel. This way it'll hold the foil in place and I won't have to worry about it shifting with all of these different pieces on top. Now you notice some of these foils are overlapping quite a bit. This is totally okay because foil will only transfer to your paste with the foil that is directly on top of the paste. If you have a piece of foil that's over top of another piece of foil, only the foil that's directly underneath the very first layer of foil, that's the only one that's going to transfer onto your transfer gel. I've applied a whole bunch of foils onto this paper here, and I'm going to stick it inside of my parchment paper sandwich. Once I have this set inside, I'm going to carefully stick it inside of my laminator, which is completely heated up, and we're going to let it run through. This will take just a few seconds to run through the laminator, and I'll wait for it to come through on the other side. Once this is fully passed through the machine, we're going to carefully take it out and remove the cardstock and foil from the carrier sheet. Now we can carefully remove the foil that's on top and reveal our beautiful multicolored foil design that's left behind. Now you might notice some areas that don't totally transfer, and that's okay. I typically like to work with a slightly larger piece than I intend to end up having, because then I can cut off any areas that didn't fully transfer. Here's that second foil design where I had a few mistakes with the application of the paste, and you'll notice some of those areas didn't totally foil. A lot of them I can cut off, but there are some that I'm not going to be able to remove, and they're going to show up on the finished project. But I think it provides a little bit of a distressed look, and I kind of like how it turned out, so I'm going to go with it. And here you can see how these two compare. You can see the one on the bottom is the one that transferred really, really well, and then the one on the top is the one where I had made the mistake with the transfer gel. Now that I have these cut down, and you can see that cutting down this one here, which was the first foil transfer we did, this one turned out beautifully. And you'll notice that all of the areas that didn't transfer with the foil are completely gone because they were only along the edge. That's why I like working with a larger piece than I intend to have on my finished project. There are some brand new sequins and sentiment strips from the Born to Sparkle release from Simon Says Stamp. I'm using those today in my project, and I'm gluing the sequins down all across different portions of this card, and then I'm also going to pop up my sentiment with a bit of foam tape. I did use a black marker to go along the edges of my sentiment strip to hide the white core of the paper. I really like doing this because I think it really finishes off the sentiment strip. Finally, I need, of course, a card base for this card, so I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of black cardstock from Simon Says Stamp and turn it into a black card base. I think this really offsets the colors of the foil, and it matches up really nicely with the sentiment strip. This is a really elegant card, and I love the bold colors of the multicolored foiling. Such a cool way to use multiple colors of foil and your stencil and create a totally different look. Here's the other card that I created, the one that has a few imperfections. Here I used a Simon Says Stamp Just Because die. It was something that came out a while back, but I love this die, and I just cut that from some glossy cardstock. Here are the two cards completely finished. This pair look really good together, and you could make a whole bunch of these to create as a card set for somebody as a gift, or just have a whole bunch of them in your stash to send out to people, because these are really elegant and would be a great card to send for a variety of occasions. I hope that you enjoyed this technique of multicolored foiling. It's something I've done often, and I really love it. So I hope that you not only were inspired by today's project, but that you also got a look at some of the new products from the Simon Says Stamp Born to Sparkle release. I have links to the brand new release over at my blog, where you can check out all the products that were in this collection. I am also participating in a blog hop today, so if you would like to see even more inspiration using this release, be sure to check out my blog, because I have links to the entire hop over there and also a giveaway. So if you head on over to my blog, you can get all the details for that, and I look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and stay tuned for more upcoming videos. I can't wait to share what else I have in store for you. Talk to you soon!